The member for Rockdale.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I recently had the opportunity, Mr Speaker, to officially open the boating season for the St George Motorboat Club in Sans Souci. And Mr Speaker, growing up in Sans Souci, the St George Motorboat Club had always been an important hub for our community, and it has been a real privilege to see them going from strength to strength in recent years. Now, Mr Speaker, all across Sydney we see community clubs shutting down through lack of engagement or mismanagement. But I think it's where I think we see clubs succeeding is where they maintain the spirit which saw them established in the first place. At the St George Motorboat Club, you can see the work they put into maintaining their fleet of boats, and you can see the pride they take in the amenity of their club. Without a doubt, it is one of the best locations in southern Sydney. I'm sure you can appreciate that, Mr Speaker, for the member for Oakley. Mr Speaker, as part of the reason I think so many of those who spent their lives in and around Sans Souci feel such a connection with the club is that the history of the St George Motorboat Club and the history of Sans Souci are so intimately tied together. Just over 99 years ago, a small group of locals got together to found this fantastic institution on what was then the Princess of Wales Hotel, which those of my vintage would have known as Mick Moylan's. The first president of the club came from what was, and still is, Sans Souci's most famous family, the Toyas. And even 99 years later, it is still a Toya who serves as the Commodore of this great club. Mr Speaker, for just as long as the St George Motorboat Club has been part of Sans Souci, it has been at the heart of its local life and politics. James Toya, that first Toya to lead the club, served as an alderman for the city of Rockdale, first being elected just 2 years before the founding of the St George Motorboat Club. James had recently moved to Sans Souci from St Peters, where he was already a successful businessman and alderman on the municipality of St Peters. When he first stood for public office here, his former colleagues at St Peters published an open letter in the St George Call newspaper endorsing his run as a fantastic local representative. Wherever James Toya went, he gave his all to contribute to his local community, and the St George Motorboat Club stands today as just one part of his proud legacy. A year after its founding, James and his fellow members invited local Member of Parliament for St George, Thomas John Lay, to the opening of the clubhouse on the 23rd of April 1921. Lay said then that today's gathering of residents on this spot will prove to be of historical value. The grandeur of the surroundings are worthy of being more widely known. That's what he said back then. Prophetic words, Mr Speaker. Lay was, by all accounts, a scoundrel, eventually being convicted for the brutal murder of a publican he suspected was sleeping with his wife. One of his political opponents also disappeared under mysterious circumstances after he exposed Lay's attempts to bribe him, and it is likely that Lay was responsible for several other murders, Mr Speaker. Our first ever serial killer parliamentarian. A little bit of local history. Mr Speaker, James Toya's Rockdale Council may no longer exist. Thomas Lay stands disgraced in the eyes of history, but the St George Motorboat Club is powering on better than ever. By the 1970s, the club appeared to be so influential in local politics that when the local member for Barton, and of course active member of this club, Len Reynolds, retired in 1975, he was replaced by an orderly transition to another active boating member, Jim Bradfield, a local Liberal member. An important reminder that your political colours are far less important than your involvement with the community, Mr Speaker. But Mr Speaker, having the chance to be involved in the ongoing history of great community institutions like the St George Motorboat Club makes me feel very lucky to be a local MP. I would like to thank the leadership of the club, Commodore David Toya, President David Blythe, my great friend Vice President Barry Barker, Margaret Hines, the first female director of the club, and directors Ian Brown, Leonard Cave, Leo Costa, Ross Gillam, Christopher Hoban and Matthew Robinson for inviting me to join them for this special occasion. The St George Motorboat Club is the oldest continuously operating racing powerboat club in Australia, and while others have folded, my local club has grown to a membership of more than 30,000. All of you should be so proud of yourselves, and I want to congratulate you on what will be another fantastic season. Thank you, Mr.
I too would like to share those concerns too. It is a fantastic motorboat club, and I do have friends on that board as well.